أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Tonight we are going to read chapter 28, the narrations, and we are going to read 29 verses of this chapter tonight, inshallah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. TSM. These are the proofs of this clarifying scripture. We recite to you the news from Moses and Pharaoh truthfully for the people who have faith. Indeed, Pharaoh exalted himself on the land and divided its inhabitants, where he oppressed a group of them, killing their sons, and brought shame to their females. Indeed, he was one of the corruptors. And we willed to bless those who were oppressed on the land, and to give them the upper hand and make them inheritors. And we established them throughout the land, and we had Pharaoh and Haman and their armies face the very thing they feared the most. And we inspired Moses' mother to continue breastfeeding him. Then, when you fear for him, throw him into the sea, and do not fear, and do not grieve. We will surely return him to you, and make him one of the messengers. Then Pharaoh's people picked him up, only to become their enemy and a source of grief. Indeed, Pharaoh, Haman, and their troops were wrongdoers. Pharaoh's wife said, "This is brightening my eyes and yours. Do not kill him. He may be useful to us, or we may adopt him as a son," and they had no clue. Moses' mother's heart was aching for him, and she almost gave away his identity, if it were not for the fact that we made contact with her heart in order to make her one of the faithful. And she said to his sister, "Follow him." And she saw him from a distant place without them knowing. And we had forbidden him from accepting any nursing mother before. So she said, "Shall I introduce you to a family who can become his guardian for you and give him a good upbringing?" We therefore returned him to his mother to brighten her eyes and remove her sadness, and in order for her to know that indeed God's promise is the truth, but most of them do not know. And when he reached maturity and an even keel, we gave him wisdom and knowledge, and we thus reward the righteous. And he entered the city, unbeknown to its inhabitants, and found therein 2 men fighting, one from his people and the other one from his enemies. He then tried to help the one from his people against the one who was his enemy. Moses therefore punched him and killed him. He said, "This is the deed of Satan. Indeed, he is a misleading, manifest enemy." He said, "Lord, indeed I transgressed against my soul. Therefore forgive me." He then forgave him. Indeed, he is the all-forgiving, the all-merciful. He said, "Lord, because you forgave me, I will never be a supporter of the guilty." He showed up the next day in the city, fearful and watchful. Then when the one whom he had helped yesterday called upon him, Moses told him, "You are really a troublemaker." Then once he tried to attack the one who was the enemy of the 2 of them. He said, "O Moses, do you wish to kill me, just like you killed a soul yesterday? You want to be a tyrant on the land, and you do not want to be righteous." And a man came from the far side of the city running. He said, "O Moses, a group is plotting to kill you. Therefore leave. I am indeed giving you good advice." He then fled from there, frightened and watchful, saying, "Lord, save me from the transgressing people. And he turned toward Midian. Is that right? Midian, saying, May my Lord guide me to the even path. And when he reached the waters of Midian, he found a group of people watering and found 2 women being pushed around. He said, What are you doing? They said, We cannot get any water until the shepherds get their water, and our father is an old man. He then got water for the 2 of them, and then took refuge under the shade and said, Lord, whatever good you send me, I am indeed in need. Then one of the 2 came to him shyly, saying, My father would certainly like to invite you to repay you for getting water for us. Then when he came to him and narrated his story to him, he said, Do not fear, for you have been saved from the transgressing people. One of the 2 women said, Our father, hire him. Indeed, it would be good to hire him. He is strong and honest. He said, I want you to marry one of my 2 daughters, conditioned upon that you work for me for 8 years. However, if you complete it as 10, it would be up to you. I do not wish to burden you. You will find me, God willing, righteous. He said, This is between I and you, that either of the 2 interims I fulfill shall not be any more burden on me, and God is the guarantor of what we say. And when Moses fulfilled his interim and traveled with his family, he saw a fire by the side of the mountain. He said to his family, Stay put. I have indeed seen a fire. Maybe I will bring you news or a piece of the fire that you may be warm.
Thank you, mashallah. Okay, very good. Are there any questions or comments or observations on these beautiful verses that we just read?
Good evening, Dr. Fazely.
Yes.
This is David.
Go ahead, please. Yes.
This is David from Roosevelt Island. I have like to have a little discussion with you, not so much not concerning the reading, but the Juma today.
Yes.
I thought was very powerful Juma, and it kind of knocked me back a little bit. And so I wanted to just, if you could bear with me for a minute. You said that we should investigate, and I had done some investigating on intercession a couple of months ago, and what I found was that God says there's no intercession. And so I find that people will still practice intercession. Intercession is being practiced in the scripture, in the Quran and in the previous scripture. If we go to Joseph 97 and 98, we see that Jacob's sons, they go to him and they ask him on behalf of what they did to Joseph to ask God to forgive them for what they did. And Jacob said he would pray to God for their forgiveness. And this is strictly practicing intercession. So we see that we're going to practice intercession. But the part that I really investigated was when God says, accept in accordance with his will, okay? And where I went in my mind was not to something you said today, where, I felt that God would not contradict himself if he said he doesn't accept intercession. There is none, because he knows everything. He's made everything. So I went to those words, the word intercession, and I looked at it from a legal or a procedure of law. And mediate and arbitrate are synonyms to intercede. They have the same meaning. And we see that there is mediation taking place in the hereafter, in the judgment. We read it in the Quran, where it says in Surah 81:8, it says where the little girl says she will be questioned why she was buried. So there's some mediation going there, some interceding going there. Jesus is questioned in 5:116, where he says, "Did you make your mother and you idols beside me?" So these are some of the things of intercession that I do see, where the angels will question. They say, "We will question you authoritatively because we were never absent. We were always there." And so I looked at those terms, and I also looked at the term of to arbitrate, which is a legal term meaning to intercede. And when I went to I believe 17, the children of Israel, 17:14, it says, "Read your own record today." And this is what happens in arbitration. Your records are being looked at. And in 28:75, the same surah that we were reading tonight, God says, He will send someone from among the different communities and be asked to bear witness, present your proof. Okay, so and when God says, you will receive your record. Today you will be your own auditor or interpreter. So these were the things that I felt was in the meaning of accept in accordance with God's will. That it had nothing to do with God giving people that He felt close to Him or a special privilege. So when you would. And I hope I'm on the right understanding that was something that you were saying today, and I was really taken back by it. And so I'm just wanting to have a deeper clarification. And am I in the right direction or am I in the wrong direction? And if you're saying that God is going to allow people to have intercession, which from a religious view, meaning, let my mother into paradise because I think she was a good woman, or because I love her and because, I'm close to you, or you're going to give me certain favor, that, He's going to do that. And, my question in that is that intercession changing God's mind? Is He allowing Himself to change His mind because He's accepting our intercession, or is it because it's already His will? See, and these are the things that when you said these things today, I just needed some clarification because I did the study. You said do the study. I did the study. You said look up the words. I looked up the words. Okay, and this is what I got. I found what I looked up actually in the Quran, because there are all these procedures of interceding in the Quran, but they're not the religious view of asking, to let my mother go to heaven because she's a good person. So these are the things that I needed clarification of, and am I interpreting it in the proper way or not? That's my question.
Well, all I was trying to do today, that I was trying to say that even when people do stupid things, God does allow them. That's all I was saying. And that shows God's mercy, God's love, and God's tolerance. We do not tolerate stupid people. That's the problem. We do not want to even listen to people. Okay? And that's what I was trying to say. I was trying to say that what God does actually, this something which is so obvious, and I said that, God says it has to be the truth. Their intercession, their witnessing that somebody has done good has to be according to the truth. And I said that only the truth exists. If I go ahead and say that so-and-so is a good guy and is a friend of mine, and he was a very good guy and he did this and this and this and this, those things has to coincide with the truth. Then again, on the other hand, somebody who says, I hear and obey, that person would never intercede on somebody's behalf. That's what I was trying to say. Okay? And I was trying to tell everybody that this shows God's tolerance, mercy, and love, and kindness that we cannot even fathom. That when even people asking his creatures or his creation is asking and questioning his wisdom, he's so nice and so gentle upon these people. That's what I was trying to say. I wasn't trying to say that, of course, if somebody goes there. And besides, God doesn't have mind to change his mind. Okay? So we have to be careful about those kind of things. God is doing according to the truth. He knows the truth. But he allows people to see what they have to say. Obviously, the angels were wrong. When they questioned God's wisdom, they were wrong. Even though they were wrong, he allowed them to express their opinion. He gave them the freedom of speech. So they uttered what they had to utter. Okay? And then he went on, and then God just didn't say, well, you guys are wrong. This is what I'm going to do. He showed them the proof, as he shows us the proof every day and every week. And that was my point. My point was to glorify and praise God for his mercy, his tolerance. That's what I was trying to say. I wasn't trying to. Okay? So that was the point.
All right. Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay. Okay. Yes. Hello?
Assalamualaikum, Mr. Parvez.
Walaikum salam, Parvez. Yes, go ahead, please.
No, when you are talking about intercession and the way God is tolerant toward all his creature, it shows that he's always a teacher in all the situation. And I was just thinking in my mind that how does one try to override the decision of the all-forgiving, all-merciful? It doesn't. I don't understand how intercession can come in that case. I mean, because he's all-forgiving, all-merciful, right?
Yes.
Because nobody else decision can override somebody who has such an attribute, right? I mean, how can I be more forgiving and more merciful and tell the one who is actually the all-merciful, all-forgiving that no, this should be the way, right? And it just doesn't make sense. I mean, to me, it's like insulting God. I mean, you go to the you go to the all-forgiving, all-merciful, and you're telling him, okay, this should be the way. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Of course. But my point is that he actually allows that.
Yeah, that is what I was looking at.
What do you think the angels were doing when they questioned God's wisdom? They were insulting God, that you're wrong.
Exactly, because he's all-knowing. Yes, we are.
Okay? He allowed that. That is the point. He allowed that to ask that question. And he said, I know something you do not know. And he just didn't put a period there and said this is the way it is. He still showed them the proof. Okay? That this guy has certain qualities that you guys are lacking. That's what God showed them as a proof. Okay? And then he went throughout history and he shows the proof. And then again, as I said, there are some people who keep saying, I hear and obey, and I obey, period. They do not ask why this, why that, why that. Okay? Once they hear a commandment from God, they obey it, period. There are some people who ask those questions. Okay, we have to verify this for ourselves. Remember I talked about this, we have to verify it for ourselves. Mm-hmm. Okay? Goes back to that. I'm not going to accept this unless I verify it for myself. And he allows you to do that, although he knows you're wrong. Okay? The same thing with Noah. Noah said, my son is there, he's from my family. Okay? Finally, God told him before that, he said, do not argue with me on behalf of the disbelievers. He told them that. But Noah did. Noah went back and said, this is my son, he's from my family. And he tells him, no, he's not of your family. Do not tell me something you do not know. Okay? So, you see, these are the type of things that God allows. And we just read this. This man committed manslaughter. Moses committed manslaughter and God forgave him. Okay? And that is amazing. I mean, I just do not know. I mean, if we do not praise and glorify God, we are in trouble with all of the goodness that he gives us. Okay? As I said, all of the provision, all of the good things that we have is from God. Okay? Bad things is because our own hands brought it upon ourselves. And God is not, he says he's not unjust towards his servants. He says it over and over and over again in the Quran. Okay? But so, this idea of, God's mercy and God's infinite grace and tolerance, which is beyond our imagination. As I said today, there are scientists who don't even listen to anybody. They act as though they are know-it-all. They are the old wise sage, that they know everything, all the secrets of the universe. Okay, that's how they behave. They don't even listen to somebody. Okay, but God here, He knows that you are wrong when you do this. When you are saying something, He knows that you're wrong, but He lets you down very gently. Okay, very gently, and that is the idea that we have to take in, and we have to glorify and praise God for that, and thank Him, and be appreciative of what He actually doing to us. Okay, that's the key.
That is why we need to emulate these characteristics of His, right? It is our duty to emulate these characteristics of His, because
exactly,
that's
of
why.
Course.
I mean, it's a huge learning curve, this thing that, what you just taught us, it was a huge thing in my life that I have to learn to be so tolerant, right? Because here, this God is all-knowing and He's tolerant. We have no knowledge. We need to be more tolerant, in fact.
Exactly. That's my point. Yes, that's what I was saying. There are scientists who don't even listen to other people. They're so arrogant, they don't even look at somebody's direction. Okay?
That's why God goes up to the point where He says, okay, as charity, as part of the equation of charity, offer forgiveness. This is amazing. Sorry,
this is absolutely amazing, absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, look at this. We just read this chapter. Okay, see what He does. Okay, He inspires Moses' mother. Okay, go ahead and throw him into the river, or into the sea. Okay, and it's going to be picked up by enemy of his and enemy of mine. All right. So, and they had no clue. Pharaoh had no clue what was going on. Okay. So, the idea about this whole thing is, He said, we'll return him back to you. And that's exactly what God did. Okay? He forbid Moses from taking any other breastfeeding mother. He just didn't do it. Okay? So the sister goes in there and says, I know a family and they're good people and they could take care of him. Okay? So he went back to his biological mother. And that's what God says. Okay? So all of this, as I see it, it goes back to the opening statement of the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay, in the name of God, the all-gracious, the all-merciful. And that's what we have to be so happy. And as I said today, these are all good news for us. Even some silly thing, some stupid thing, that, you go in there and this guy stands up and he wants to be amicus curiae, okay, means friend of the court. Okay? So, and he's bringing news to the court, which is Ahkam al-Hakimin is in charge, God. Alaysa Allah ba'ahkam al-Hakimin. Chapter, I forget which one it is. I think it's 82, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe not. Okay? Don't take me for that. Anyway, isn't God the best judge of all the judges? That guy stands up and says, oh, well, I know this guy is a good guy. He did this and this and this. And God already knows that. But he allows him to speak. That is the amazing part. He allows him to speak. But he said, your utterance has to be according to the truth. If it is not according to the truth, it's not going to be accepted because it does not exist. See, that's the point. Something which is falsehood does not exist. That's the key. And that's what we have to take into heart and into our minds and into our beings. Okay, that God that we have, we are so blessed. Okay, that I cannot even imagine how blessed we are.
Yeah, it keeps telling us falsehood will vanish, right?
It is. Of course, falsehood does not exist. Existence is because of the truth. That's the key. It looks to people that somehow it exists. People who steal money, they think that money is going to benefit them. It's not going to benefit them. People who are doing all kinds of things, they think that somehow but all of those things are all fallacies. They're not reality. And they really do not exist. So that's why they're going to vanish. Okay? That's what God says, do not do these things because these things are not according to the truth. And so once we do that, then we are lucky. And as I said, we are blessed. So as I said, the idea that we see, okay, that God is allowing these things, okay? Look at Satan. I mean, who was guiltier than Satan, than Iblis? Nobody. Okay? He says, respite me until the day of resurrection. That's what he asked God. He said, okay, that's it. Fine. Okay? He said, no, I'm not going to do this. No, nothing. Okay, that's it. You have respite. Can you imagine that? His request was granted by God. That shows God's tolerance, mercy, and this gives absolute freedom of choice to people. Absolute freedom of choice. And that's the mind-boggling thing. Okay?
He's actually constantly teaching us. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't stop thinking of God now. I mean, it's all good news thinking of Him, and when you think of God and everything dissolves, all your worries just disappears when you think of Him and say, "Wow."
Again, exactly, that is right. And the more we recognize, actually, the greater God's become actually in our minds and our hearts. Mm-hmm. Okay. This is an absolutely overwhelming force that's surrounding us and give us this existence that we have. And He does everything according to truth because that's His name. That's one of His names is the truth. Okay? Awesome. That's exactly what He says when He tells us about the creation of Adam and Jesus. Okay?
Yeah, Satan comes and puts doubt in us. That's why we forget everything, how good God is.
Of course, yeah.
Thank you so much for this good news. I mean, this is
Thank you.
Good news. It'll always stay in my heart forever.
Very good. MashaAllah.
Assalamu alaikum, Ali.
Walaikum salam. Yes, Tasneem.
I joined a couple of minutes late, so I don't know if I have missed something that I'm asking, which is what you were saying, I gathered, just like Allah allowed the angels to ask Him a question about His decision. mercy, He allows the prophets and messengers to intercede. But that doesn't mean that His decision about somebody getting punished or whatever His decision may be is going to change, right?
No, what I'm trying to say, I think that this whole thing was taken the wrong way. This whole, my khutbah today was taken the wrong way. I'm not saying that, the thing is allowed, then you can do this and this and this. And I said, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that even something as silly and stupid as somebody standing up and say, I have news that you don't have. That's what you are saying basically to God. The guy who was doing the intercession, it's saying that I have the news that you don't have, which is absolutely stupid. Let's put it this way, okay? Even that guy is allowed to do that. That is my point. Not necessarily that it's going to be accepted. God says it very clearly. He said his testimony and his intercession has to be according to the truth. If it's not, then it's not accepted, obviously. And it has to be pleasing to God. Okay, that's what God says. We just read it today. And that's what my point was. My point was, even something as ridiculous as this, as ludicrous as this, that somebody actually has the audacity to stand out there, whoever it is. It doesn't matter if it's a messenger or prophet, whoever it is. It doesn't matter. Okay? Prophet Muhammad never knew me, who I am. Okay? Why would he intercede on my behalf? Okay? What does he know about me? He's just a human being just like me. Okay? Jesus doesn't know anybody. Jesus doesn't know the Pope. Okay? Why would he intercede on the behalf of the Pope? That's stupid and crazy. Okay? These are just people have these things to, sort of feel happy type of statements that they make. Okay? That this guy or this woman or that person is going to. No. It's anybody, any Joe Schmo off the street. And God does not distinguish between those people. And he says, okay, you want to do this? Fine. Here you go. Okay? But as I said, it has to be according to truth. That information that person brings has to coincide with the truth. Now, who is the truth? God is. Okay?
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So the point I was trying to make is that God, even though He knows that, He knows it. Okay? He knows it. He allows those people to speak. They have freedom of speech. It's not going to go away. Freedom of speech is not going to go away. You have the freedom of speech. You have freedom of thinking or whatever you want to call it. Okay, expression or whatever you want to call it. You have that. Okay? But He gives it to you, although He knows what's good for you and what's bad for you. He knows that. But He gives it to you, and He's not a tyrant up there doing this and that, the others. He allows you to express yourself, but that expression that you have has to be the truth. If it's not the truth, it doesn't exist. It's going to vanish.
Yes, I did understand exactly as you are saying. So the point here is that in these verses is that Allah, with His generosity and forgiveness, He allows them to speak. Doesn't mean His decision is going to change. Whatever they are speaking has to coincide with His decision. Yeah, I understood that, Ali. Thank you.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay.
Dr. Fazely, this is David again. Thank you for just making that more clear for me, and I appreciate it. I get the gist of what you were saying, and so I really appreciate the reiterating, that
very
you've
good.
done. So
very good.
Thank you.
Okay, very good.
Salam, Dr. Fazely.
Yes. Go ahead,
Finish. You finished what you were saying.
I wasn't going to say anything. I think it was Tasneem who
I was just going to say that despite the fact that these people are opening their mouth and talking something about in front of Allah, the one with the greatest power possible, is possessor of all power, and they say, yet He doesn't punish them for interfering with His decision or anything. He allows them to speak. That is the beauty of this whole thing. They speak until what they speak is according to Allah's decision. nothing is going to happen, but he still lets them talk. That's what I...
my point is that it's not according to God's decision. It's according to the truth. That's the point.
Exactly.
Okay? That's the idea. That this has to be according to truth, otherwise it really doesn't exist. It's a non-existent statement that people are making. And as I said, also said that, okay, would I do that? No. Okay, when God says something, I say I hear and obey. When he says do not eat pork, do not eat the meat of the pig, that's what God stresses. Do not eat the meat of the pig. It is been prohibited for you. It is unlawful to eat it. That's what he says. Okay? I have two options. I want to go and do research and see why he said that. Okay? And that I find trichinosis in pig, and then I say, yeah, because of this. Then you know what happened to me? I was grown up, and that's the idea that they told me. That's why the pig is not to be eaten. Okay? And then I found out later that beef also may have trichinosis. And my whole idea shattered right in front of me. Okay? So I've been loaded with a bunch of garbage. Okay? Why? Because I did not believe that God's commandment is enough for me. This again, we go to children of Israel. God said to his prophet, he said, tell them that Saul is going to be their king. So Samuel, God doesn't call him Samuel in the Quran. He said their prophet. So in the Bible it says Samuel, okay? So this guy went back and said, well, God says that Saul is going to be. Why Saul? He's not even rich. Okay? So immediately they questioned God's wisdom. It wasn't enough for them that God says so. Okay? So that is my point. My point is exactly the same thing. We can go and do research. We have to verify. I also talked about this one time. We want to verify things for ourselves. We want to go to high-energy physics book or this guy, history of time, a brief history of time that's written by this guy or that guy to make or on to be a book of glory. You see, it says the same thing here, the same thing that, Isaac Newton said or Einstein said. It's in the Quran and things like that. So we give credence to the Quran because of those guys. Quran has said this 1,400 years ago. These guys were not even in the scene. Okay? So the point about this whole thing is that we are glorifying God. That was my idea today. That we are, through this mechanism that he's describing in the Quran, intercession, we see who our God is and know him better. And be grateful and thankful that this is this way. And it's not any other way. Okay.
Yes, I got it. Thank you, Ali. Very, 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 not only interesting, but superb way of explaining.
Yeah, some of the older people in this group. Okay, you're also. Okay, let me just be very frank about this. I'm going to speak very candidly. Okay, you have been influenced by Rashad, who said there is no intercession.
That's true.
So what I said today came sort of heavy for you because you thought that I'm saying there are intercessions. I'm not saying there are intercessions. I'm saying that God's mercy allows that. That's what I'm saying. Yes. Although that intercession has to be according to God's will and according to what pleases him. That means it has to be according to truth. That's what God says. And we read it today. So if it's not, then it doesn't exist. So I'm not saying there is intercession. What I'm saying is that I'm trying to say that how tolerant God is. This is beyond our imagination.
Yes.
And so we have to glorify and praise him and never stop doing that.
Thank you, Ali, for this clarification.
Thank you.
Really... Okay. I think Shakira wanted to say
something. Shakira, go ahead now. You had a question?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, one thing is that with everything that the Quran tells you, it makes it clearer and clearer that that God's attributes attributes are so awesome that even in situations where it's simply, totally ignorance to actually ask for intercession. When God is telling you it, but it's mathematically composed. You are your own. You are the one who's deciding, are you going to go to heaven or hell? So what is the point of anybody else doing it? Because God himself is not going to go against his own commandments. God is the truth, so he's going to keep that truth. No matter what anybody says or does, he'll listen to them. But it doesn't mean that he's going to change the law, because the laws are set in stone. So thank God for that, because without that we would be lost. If we would be lost if intercession had to have anything to do with what we are existing right now. Anyway, moving away from that, it was very, in 28:6, God is actually telling that Pharaoh and Haman and their armies faced the very thing they feared the most. So they were really afraid of how that if the children of Israel leave, they will be abandoned, and nobody is going to be able to. They're going to have great difficulty facing, a future without this. This one is so we it's not just the arrogance, but they were also fearful, and so it's telling that human beings might be doing a lot of wrong things, but their ego is actually driving them. Even their fear is being driven by ego. And then all these things about, so many signs in this God gives about this. About the mother, every single thing that's happening to the mother, and how she said, I hear you and I obey you, God. That's what she said. She did not ask any question. Put him in the thing. She said, I hear you and I obey you. And when her heart is aching for him, he strengthened it. He knows what a mother is, and he did that. And then he's actually, every single verse in this is telling you that God is there every moment. He's telling you, he tells Moses and Aaron, what does he say? No, don't have any fear at all. I'm going to be with you. I'm listening. I'm doing everything. You don't have to worry about it. He's telling them like that. And it's the same thing for us. We don't have to be fearful or anything, because we know that God is with us. And this is so beautiful. See, look at what it says here. فَرَدَدْنَاهُ إِلَىٰ أُمِّهِ كَيْفَ تَخَرَّ عَيْنُهَا. See, the brighten her eyes. This brighten her eyes is basically to remove her sadness. So she's hearing and obeying him completely sad. She's scared, but she's going to do exactly what he's going to tell her to do. And then what does he do? He actually makes her happy again. He removes her sadness and he makes her happy. And then this one, I just don't know why this Pharaoh's wife is telling that my eyes, your eyes and my eyes, and it's like Moses is going to bring light into their lives. He's going to make them happy. She actually sees that like that. She wants it, so she will have this. And God gives it to his mother for her to remove her sadness.
But you are missing here that the wife of Pharaoh was a righteous woman.
Yes, she was. She was.
Yes. Okay. So this is part of God's plan how to do this. Okay. And they had no clue. These people had no clue. Okay. So and you're right. Every verse here is talking about God's mercy over and over and over again. Okay, and as I said, we are so indebted to God for this. Okay, that our eyes are open now, who God is, and how tolerant He is, how merciful He is, how generous He is. Okay? All of those things that we didn't know about who God is. is coming back and really going into our souls, into our genes, into our spirit, into our souls, that we actually know who God is. And, you were saying that God is here. We live in God.
Yes.
We live in God. We are existing here because of God.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
That's what he says. He says, remember that I removed that verse, 2:186. See, when my servant asks you about me, I am always nearby. Okay? And he listens to the caller of the caller. Okay? He responds to that. But we have to respond to him. We have to reciprocate. Okay? We have to give back in kind. We have to contribute in kind. Okay? So it's not just a one-way thing. It's a two-way relation between a human being and God. And it's nobody's business. Okay? Absolutely nobody's business. And the point is that, some people may say, well, if I was in this country or this country, I would not do this. That's not true. Chapter 40, there's a believing Egyptian, okay, in Pharaoh's, and he's hiding his belief because Pharaoh has no control on his mind. Okay, there are the magicians, right? They saw the truth, and that was it. Okay, they believed. They didn't care if Pharaoh was going to kill him or whatever. It didn't matter to them anymore because they saw the signs of God, and they believed. Okay, so these are not excuses. These are not excuses. If I was there or something like that, I couldn't do this. Okay, but again, thank God for us that we can do this without any interference from anybody else. That we have this phone and nobody is jamming the signal. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
The
and
other
we
thing
look
is,
at this. Yeah.
The other thing
Go
is
ahead.
that every verse here is actually telling you about God's omniscience. This is, let it be millions of years ago or 10,000 years ago or today. His omniscience is always there. Every verse that is written in the Quran, he's describing it with the truth because he's the one who did everything.
Yeah.
So it's basically that without, every single verse is telling you, I'm here, I'm right here. I'm nowhere, I'm going nowhere, I'm right here. And then he's doing that for every single one of us. And so it's, I don't know, we cannot thank him enough for that. Another thing I wanted to bring to the attention of. So the father of the two women who went and Moses helped them. At that time, the father, without anything at all, he says, he tells Moses that I want you to marry one of my daughters. And Moses replies immediately, yeah, I will. And yes, I'll accept that. So it's just amazing how this is that God decides all these things and people just listen to it. And I don't know. This one is, want you to marry one of my two daughters, condition that you do this. And then he immediately says, this is between I and you, that either of the two interims I fulfill shall not be any more burden on me. And God is the guarantor of. These are such powerful words.
Yeah. What do you take from that? That he tells Moses, go ahead and marry one of my two daughters. What is your interpretation of that?
My interpretation of it is that this father was very wise, and this father understood Moses to be somebody who's truly righteous, and he felt that the best thing he could do was to keep him in his family and marry one of his daughters. He just wanted Moses to be his son-in-law because he was so, everything that he did was to him perfectly good. What do you think?
So let me tell you I've talked about this before. Maybe people have forgotten. Okay? But I'm going to say it again. How many people do that today? A man is supposed to ask a woman to marry her. Okay? That's the societal type of thing. A man is supposed to kneel in front of the woman and say, this guy is a simple guy. He said, it doesn't matter who asks. He says, come and marry my daughter. Wants to simplify the whole situation. Okay? After recognize that this guy is a righteous, hardworking guy. Okay? So my point about this whole thing is that we are making it difficult. Otherwise, the Quranic commandment, the scriptural commandment, is a very simple thing. They're very simple, yeah. And we do not recognize them. We'll go ahead and so this is absolutely diametrically opposing to the tradition of people right now.
Yes,
because men are supposed to court women right now, not the other way around. You can't do it the other way around. Okay? But obviously that is the wrong way to approach it.
Yes.
So the simplicity of these people is absolutely astounding, but these are examples in the Quran that God brings for us. Okay? But look, it's not that complicated. Don't make it complicated. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely right. Not only that, they disobey everything that God says.
Yeah.
You know,
but also you see, He gives them a job. Okay?
Yeah.
So he can support his family.
Yes, he did.
Okay? This is amazing, but we don't pay attention to these things, to these situations. Okay?
Yeah.
So they're all there. He knew that he was somebody who came from a faraway land. Obviously, he doesn't have a job there. So he gave him a job. Okay, here, 8 years, 10 years, until you can stand on your own 2 feet. And Moses said, yes, sir, I'll do that. Okay? Because he knew that a man supposed to be responsible for women, men were made bread earners by God. Cannot be the other way around. If it's the other way around, we are going to see the consequences. It's not good. Okay?
Yeah.
So the whole situation is being obeyed by God's commandments here for 3,500 or 3,700 years ago. And we are still in trouble today.
Yes. And also the humility, he was raised as a prince, and he came and he became a farmer.
Yeah.
And he had no hesitation in that, transformation from one to another. Yeah. And it was just amazing to think about it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Fazely.
Wa alaikum assalam. Yes, sir. Fariel, yes, go ahead.
You just slightly mentioned those of us that were with Rashad, and it brought me to understanding wherein in the translation he had it was creatures who upheld God's absolute authority, and I always ventured to be more like the angels. And today when you said the angels made a mistake, it sort of jumped at me like, what? But they did. I absolutely see it. And in now we're not trying to be angel-like, we're trying to be more God-like, which is where we should have been all along, trying to assimilate God's qualities.
Yes.
So it made a leap for me, and I just want to say, in that I'm totally appreciative.
Mashallah. That is great. That is great. That is great.
And then I had something else. Thank you, Dr. Fazely. God has given you something that it's just anyway. Praise God. The other thing I was just noticing that and I might be taking it wrong, but when we follow our tribe, we can sometimes find that because you said the only nation is the nation of Abraham. Wherein Moses followed his person or from his people, and that's not how you choose to defend. You choose who's right, or don't just go because when that was just something that I was listening to the reading.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point, because obviously the guy was a troublemaker. Yeah. Because the next day he got into a fight. You see. So, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This has just been great. I mean, I'm so appreciative that I have not missed this. That I'm just so happy that God picked me to be able to hear this, to hear everything we're all talking about, and we all are functioning on trying to get to a greater understanding and a greater. For however we sound, let's just let it go and let God show us. And I appreciate everybody that's on this line. I do. And
Mashallah. Mashallah. That is great. Yeah.
Alaikum.
Salam again, Ali.
Yes, alaikum salam. Yes.
Yeah, this is going on the lighter side. 28:10, when Moses' mother's heart was aching for him and she almost gave away his identity, if it were not for the fact that we made contact with her heart in order to make her one of the faithful. So I'm just wondering if actually the sorrow that people experience, we do feel in the chest certain emotions. So when God says he made contact with the heart, so heart had something to play in this grief of Moses' mother. Just a observation. Not his mind, her mind, but Allah made contact with her heart.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Anyway, I just thought on the lighter.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that only God can do that. Okay, only God can settle your heart and make you feel better. Okay, so that's what God is saying. She was obviously her heart was aching for him. It's very obvious. Okay, but God has calmed her down, and this is literally says connecting with his heart, with her heart, in order to make her one of the faithful. So,
that's interesting too.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Okay, any other questions or comments before we finish for tonight?
Oh my.
Okay, all right. So let's do our usual 3